In this tutorial, we will talk about multiplying conjugates. Multiplying conjugates cancels out the middle term of the trinomial, leaving you with the first term squared minus the second term squared. So if you notice, each term has 3x and 5, the difference being that one is plus and one is minus. So let's set up the box. We have 3x plus 5 and 3x minus 5, and then we're going to multiply. 3x times 3x is 9x squared. 5 times 3x is a positive 15x. 3x times negative 5 is a negative 15x. Negative 5 times 5 is negative 25. Notice that the diagonals cancel out. And we're left with 9x squared minus 25. Let's do that again with letter B. So we set up our box. We have 9x plus 4 and 9x minus 4. 9x times 9x is 81x squared. 4 times 9x is a positive 36x. 9x times negative 4 is a negative 36x. Negative 4 times positive 4 is a negative 16. Again, notice that the diagonals add to 0. And we are left with 81x squared minus 16. So in this case, if we took the first term squared, we would get 81x squared, and the second term is 4 squared, which is 16, and difference meaning subtract. Let's take a look at what happens when we have a square root. So we start off with our box. Negative 6x plus root 12, negative 6x minus root 12. Negative times a negative is a positive, so we get 36x squared. Negative 6x root 12, and then a negative 6 and a negative root 12 is a positive 6x root 12. And then negative times a positive is a negative. Root 12 times root 12 is just 12. Notice that negative 6x roots 12 and positive 6x root 12 add to 0. So we end up with 36x squared minus 12. And letter D, start out with our box. We have 7x plus root 5 and 7x minus root 5. 7 times 7 is 49x squared. We have a positive 7x root 5. 7 times a negative is a negative 7x root 5. Negative times a positive is a negative. Root 5 times root 5 is just plain old 5. So we have x root 5, 7 minus 7 is 0. They cancel out. And we get 49x squared minus 5. Something changes a little bit when we have imaginary numbers because it begins with the difference of squares, but we know that I squared becomes negative 1. So if we have our box, we have 11x plus 2i and 11x minus 2i. 11 times 11 is 121x squared. 2 times 11 is a positive 22xi. And a negative 2 times 11 is negative 22xi. And negative 2 times positive 2 is a negative 4i squared. So it is the difference because we have minus 4i squared. But what changes is I squared is negative 1. So when we have imaginaries, we actually have a positive number at the end. But 22xi and negative 22xi still add to 0. So we get 121x squared plus 4. So when it's imaginary, the difference of squares actually has a positive because we have the I values. Let's take a look at F. We have 13x plus 15i and 13x minus 15i. So we get 169x squared plus 195xi and minus 195xi. And negative 15 times positive 15 is negative 225I squared. And we said that I squared is negative 1. And so we actually have a positive 225. And negative 195xi and positive 195xi add to 0. And we end up with 169x squared plus 225.